Motor, J Motor, J Motor, J Motor, recognize Heckler House, Heckler House. Oh, 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 oh.
What's up, YouTube? This is your boy Thomas, back again with another rendition of Truth Be Told. Now this week, there wasn't really anything major going on in the news, except for them, huffing and puffing about the Trump indictment and all that shit. The far leftist thinks it's a win when it's not, because it's all BS. It's already been proven, so they're idiots for even trying it, but whatever. The only real criminals is Biden and his son and several of the Democrats. But regardless, moving on. The only other thing I saw was, the 0.01% of the so-called alphabet community, which is the T community, are trying to claim that the Nashville shooter was a victim when she clearly was not. She had been mentally brainwashed by this group, and she targeted Christians at a Christian school and killed a bunch of kids. That's not a victim. So it's just kind of retarded, that whole situation. Anyways, moving on. The one thing I wanted to talk to you about this week was I just got done watching the movie called 65 or 65. They should have called this 65 million years or 65 million BC, which is what the 65 represents. Regardless, it is a Sam Raimi film, or Raimi, however you want to pronounce it, and it stars Adam Driver. Basically, the movie is about a father who goes on a mission for his child because she's dying of some disease or cancer. And it's a 2-year mission. He's going to be gone for a while, and he hopes he can make it back in order to get her some help financially with medical bills or whatever, medically speaking, to help save his daughter. He's from a different planet, but yet they look human. He goes on this mission, and he's carrying a bunch of scientists in stasis pods, cryogenic stasis pods or whatever. But on his way back, he's watching some video of his daughter. Apparently she died before he could make it back. He's kind of depressed about that. And then all of a sudden he enters an asteroid field with a lot of asteroids, and they're all heading towards this planet. He gets caught up in it, and the ship gets hit pretty hard and crash lands on the planet. Now when he crash lands on the planet, at first he's thinking about suicide or whatever, because he noticed that he lost all the people in the stasis pods. He figures there's no point in going on, there's no one left, and he almost decides to screw it and just, who cares? He decides not to send a message. Then he changes his mind he figures he'd go out and take a look around anyway. When he does, he finds a bunch of dead bodies, and several of the cryo chambers have been destroyed. But he does end up finding one particular stasis chamber still intact. He has to force it open. It's a little girl. He finds a little girl. He takes her back to the ship to help get her revived or recover. And then he realizes, he has something to live for now. So he sends a message for a rendezvous point because apparently there is a lifeboat on a ship. There is an extra escape pod that's kind of like a little ship that he could use to get off the planet. So, but unfortunately, it's up with the other half of the ship. The ship broke in half. So he gets out this little notepad or whatever. I guess you'd call it like a tricorder, and it tells him, approximately how far it is. He takes some binoculars to go look during the day, the next day, and he finds where it's at, but it's like 15 kilometers away on top of this mountain. Well, the little girl follows him, and he grabs her, finds out she speaks a different language than he does, so he's kind of having a hard time communicating with her. He tells her, they got to go to the mountain. That's where the other ship is, so they can get off the planet. He kind of deceives her and tells her family's up there in stasis pods still. So she goes along with it. Along the way, the little girl, which is far more accurate than I've seen in a lot of the past movies. The little girl, like a woman, like a female, she nearly gets him in trouble and gets him killed several times on the way there. And he's trying to get her. He's like, you got to listen to me or you're going to die. Half the time she don't want to listen to him. She nearly gets him killed several times. But eventually she figures it out and does what he says. So naturally they run across several different dinosaurs along the way and get out of sticky situations. And then once they get to the ship, he tells her the story of his daughter because she finds out her parents are dead, and he kind of lied to her half about the family, but not trying to get off the planet. Anyways, one of the meteors start coming down, and you can see the big one. It's making a real large trail, and it's coming soon. And his little notepad tells him, it's going to destroy everything. He's got to get off the planet. So they hop into the escape pod, but a dinosaur, or not a dinosaur, but one of the meteors hit the ship that the escape pod's on and knocks it down the cliff or the mountain that they just climbed. And then a dinosaur shows up. It starts fucking with him. He gets out to fight the dinosaur. Then there's another one. He ends up killing both of them. But then there's a third one that shows up, tries to kill him. And he remembers a geyser, a hot geyser, acid, sulfur geyser, whatever. He takes it to that because his laser gun runs out of ammunition or energy or whatever. So he takes it to that, and it blows in its face, but it doesn't quite kill it. And it starts to eat him. And then the girl shows up, and stabs it in the eye with a big tooth filled with poison berries or whatever that she rubbed on it. And then the geyser explodes again and kills the dinosaur. And then they both get back onto the escape pod, which has righted the correct way now, because at first it wasn't, they weren't able to get off the planet because she told her how to launch the escape pod, but when it fell down the cliffside, it didn't set right to where they could shoot off into the atmosphere. So that didn't work. But now it's, because of the dinosaurs, it's been righted the correct way, and they shoot off, and the computer's telling them, you know, where the rendezvous point is, where they can get assistance. So the rendezvous point tells them where they can get picked up. Now, the very end of the movie just shows the planet blowing up with the big asteroid hitting it. That's supposed to be the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs or whatever. And they try to explain the humanoid DNA by the bodies being mixed in with the Earth that way. Just, okay, whatever. Anyways, that's the end of the movie. Now, the acting, of course, it wasn't bad. It was Adam Driver. He's a decent actor. The little girl was fine. She did okay. Wasn't horrible or anything like that. And they're the only two really in the entire movie. Oh well. Okay, at the beginning you had the mom and the daughter, and you do see some videotapes of the daughter, but very briefly. But otherwise, the acting was okay. The special effects were cool, of course. You know, I just think my only complaint is that they should have changed the name of the title. But other than that, the movie was really good, actually. I thought it was alright. It wasn't bad at all. I give it 2 thumbs up. Check it out. It's one of the better movies that's come out in a long time. Without, you know, telling a story without putting a bunch of propaganda BS from the left. Political crap and shit. It was a decent movie. Check it out. Alright. Let's get on to your B-movie reviews. Okay, Movieholics. This week is Fantasy Week. In this round, I went with some dark fantasy movies. They're not really horror, and they're not really comedy. They're kind of a mixed match of fantasy, horror, and comedy, sort of. Anyways, the first one, of course, is a real popular movie, was huge in the 80s, and it's called Gremlins. Now, it was done in 1984, and it made about $153 million worldwide. It stars Zach Galligan and Phoebe Cates, or Phoebe Cates, whatever, however you want to pronounce her name. Anyways, this is a Steven Spielberg film, so naturally it did well. Even though it was cheesy and campy. Basically, the story is you have this down and out of luck inventor. He runs across a Chinese shop in Chinatown where he finds this little creature called a mogwai, and he gets it and takes it back to his kid and gives it to him, who is just turning 18 or whatever for his birthday. He tells him that he's got 3 rules. Everybody knows the 3 rules. You know, no bright light, especially sunlight, because it'll kill him. Rule 2, no water getting them wet. It will, for whatever reason, they don't really say. You don't find out till later. And then the third one is don't feed them after midnight. Pretty simple, right? Well, no, they go and break all 3 of the rules in this movie. You know, they call the mogwai Gizmo, and he doesn't, you know, he kind of screams and hollers for bright light, and then he's like, bright light, you know, so they know not to do that to him. Gizmo, Corey Feldman shows up, and he's a little kid, about, you know, 13, 14 years old. Anyways, he knocks over a glass of water on Gizmo, and then Gizmo pops out 5 little mogwai that look pretty much similar to him, except for one has this white stripe across his head. Therefore, they name him Stripe, and he turns out to be the leader of the 5 new mogwai. Zach's character, he takes one of them to a professor or scientist, doctor, whatever, of science or whatever, at his school, this black guy, and he shows him, he drops it from an eyedropper or a drop of water on him, and creates another one, another mogwai. Well, the doctor asks to keep one of them so he can do some tests on it, run a few tests on it, so he agrees. Now, Gizmo is pretty, you know, decent. He's not mean or malicious or anything like that. However, the new group that came from him are, especially with Stripe. He's really mean. They do some things to the dog. And then they trick Zach's character into feeding him after midnight by cutting the cord to the clock, so it looks like he feeds him before midnight. It's actually after. Well, after they do that, they they turn into these cocoons like aliens, and then they re-emerge as like these devilish looking green creatures. And they start terrorizing the mother, you know, his mother, and his mother kind of kills off like, she kills off like 3 or 4 of them, and then, 3 of them, and then he comes in, he ends up killing the 4th one which was in the Christmas tree, cuts its head off with a sword. So you got two left. You got Stripe and you got the one at the school, which also changed. Now Stripe takes off. He gets out of the house. And Zach's character, Charlie or whatever, he goes over to the school and finds the professor dead. And the other one escapes as well. He grabs Gizmo and they go to the YMCA because they're tracking Stripe. He's going to stop him. Well, Stripe jumps in the water, in the pool, and creates a whole mess of him. And then they start going around town, terrorizing everybody in town. There's an old woman who's real hateful. She's the wealthiest person in town. She gets what she deserves. There's a whole bunch of mess of people that they mess around with. Well, he finds Phoebe Cates in the bar where she's working as a bartender. And she's like, he gets her out of there. There's a bunch of them in there that she was serving. They were keeping her in there to serve them. But she gets out. And goes with Charlie or whatever his name is. Zach's character. And they're trying to figure out a way to get rid of him. He goes back home and starts to come up with a plan. Well, all of a sudden everything goes quiet and they don't know what's going on, and they go looking around. They find out that they're all in a theater. He comes up with this plan on how to kill them off. So he's going to blow the place up. They go in there and they set the trap. Almost don't make it, but they barely get out, and then they end up blowing the place up and killing everybody. Well, unfortunately, there was one who was not in the building, and that was Stripe. Stripe saw a candy store and went over there to get candy while everybody else was inside watching Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Anyways, they chase him inside the department store with all the candy. He's going to kill Stripe. Gizmo shows up, helps him out, pulls down this curtain or whatever, lets in sunlight, kills him on top of this water fountain. So Stripe almost made it to create more, but he didn't quite make it. He ends up getting killed. Anyways, the old Chinese man, he shows back up and grabs Gizmo because the father really didn't purchase it from him. He purchased it from his grandson because they needed the money. But the old man came to get Gizmo and give him his money back and takes him away. Tells him he's not ready. And that's the end of the movie. It was cheesy, campy. The acting was fine. I liked it when back in the day. I still like it to a degree, even though it really is cheesy and campy. You kind of have to like the 80s movies. I still give it 2 thumbs up. Great movie. Check it out. It's at least a one-time see for sure. Now the next one is the sequel to that. And you have, Zach and Phoebe Cates. They come back to reprise their roles. And you have a couple others from the first movie. The Fettermans. But everybody else is pretty much a new cast. basically in this one, the old Chinese man, he dies. They destroy his shop. They're going to replace it, well, with something else. And some guys from that work in this huge tech building, they're scientists or whatever, and they see Gizmo running around on the street after they destroy the building, and they pick him up, take him into the building with them. They're going to do some scientific experiments with him because they don't know what he is. Anyways, Christopher Lee plays like this head scientist or whatever. He's kind of curious at what he is and blah blah blah. He decides to do all kinds of experiments on him. Well, in doing so, Charlie and Phoebe Cates, they now are out of the town they were in. They're living in New York, where this company is at, in this big building. They both work there. Charlie finds out Gizmo's in the building. He gets Gizmo and he finds out that the old man died, and he says he'll take care of him from now on. So they're reunited briefly, and then he turns around and he gets caught up with his boss, and he asks Phoebe Cates to go grab. They're engaged now, by the way. She goes to collect Gizmo, but Gizmo got water on him and created 4 or 5 new Mogwai. But unfortunately, I get what they were going with here. They were trying to change the colors and give them certain personalities. I get what they were doing, but it just wasn't working with the audience. The audience really didn't care for that, because in the first one they all looked the same. In this one they try to change them up a little bit, make them a little bit different, make them characters, but it didn't work quite as well. Anyway, she grabs one of these thinking it's Gizmo, and it's not. Gizmo's been stuffed in the ventilating shaft by them, and she takes it home. Well, Charlie gets back from his meeting or whatever, comes to find out, he's like, oh no. He's like, that's not Gizmo. So he knows that there's been more created and that they're in the building. He's like, we gotta go back, blah blah blah, and stop them and find Gizmo. The whole bunch of crap goes on in the building. They end up eating after midnight, blah blah blah. They get water all over them. They create a whole bunch more. They get into the scientist lab, and they're drinking these formulas that are mutating them into different kinds of gremlins. But they eventually kill them all. Charlie comes up with another plan where he gets them all wet, and then there's this one gremlin that drank, like, made him like spark, like a living electricity or whatever, and he releases them on him, and he fries them all, kills them all. And that's pretty much the end of the movie. Now, the guy they're working for, he's in the movie. He recognizes him, and he realizes he helps him out, and blah blah blah. So he gives him and his soon-to-be wife positions at the company, blah blah blah. So everything's well and good, and that's pretty much the end of the movie. He takes Gizmo home, and that's it. This movie, the second one, not very good. They kind of screwed it up. It wasn't even Steven Spielberg who did it. It was somebody else. And it just didn't go over well, even though they had a few of the actors from the first film. It wasn't good. I do not recommend it. I gave it 2 thumbs down. I didn't like it. It was really poorly done. But anyways, That's all I have for you this week. They have been talking about doing another Gremlins. I don't know. They haven't gotten around to it. I don't know if they ever will. But anyways, if you have any thoughts about what I talked about earlier in the video, please leave your thoughts down in the comment section down below. If you can think of any underrated or B movies or television that you think I may never have seen or heard of, please leave your comments down or suggestions down in the comment section down below, and I'll get to reviewing them as soon as I can. So until next time, I told you be told the truth, and you've just been told.